This past week I have been sharing meditations on the Gospel online. And some friends and parishioners asked me, well, why don't you do meditations in English as well? So for all our international parishioners and for my friends overseas, this is a meditation for times when all the wrong things are going viral. Now I don't like doing things twice, so I won't be considering the Gospel today, but the Psalm that we sang last Sunday. The Psalms are often underappreciated. Technically, of course, a psalm is read or sung during every Mass, but at least in our churches, oftentimes the psalm is replaced with another song. Not everywhere, but in some churches. So that means that I hardly ever preach about the psalm because, well, I might end up in a church where they don't sing it. And so it never becomes part of the homily. Which means this is a good time to pay some extra attention to those poems that we find in our Bible. Today we'll be talking about one of the most well-known and beloved Psalms, Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd." But we listen to it first. And if you're watching this, I encourage you to sing the refrain at home, softly or loudly, depending on what you're feeling like and how many people are in the room with you.
The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. In verdant pastures he gives me repose, beside restful waters he leads me. He touches my soul. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. He guides me here right path for his name's sake. Though in the dark valley I fear no evil, for he is at my side. His rod and his staff give me courage. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. And I shall dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want.
when you first hear it, this psalm seems to describe kind of a pastoral scene, an idyllic scene, a sheep walking through green fields with a shepherd without a care in the world. But that's a bit too fast, because as we see, there are dangers in sight. If we break down this psalm into parts, we can see it's actually composed of two parts. The first one is about God as a shepherd. This is an image that would be familiar to the original readers or singers of the psalm as well. We are perhaps inclined to think of it as something that is an image of closeness, of confidence. You can follow a shepherd because he's a good shepherd. But in the ancient world, the emphasis would be more on God's power, his power to protect, and the wisdom of his guidance, just like a shepherd leads his sheep in the right way. This guidance is shown because the sheep are led through to green pastures, which means there is enough to eat, and restful waters. It's important that the waters are restful because if the waters are too swift, they could carry the sheep away. It would be dangerous to drink from them. And especially if you're thirsty, you can get less cautious about where you drink from exactly. So the fact that the waters are restful means that the shepherd is taking care of the life of his sheep. Now this is easy to believe perhaps when things are quiet and when there is no threat in sight. But as we go on, we see the sheep walking through the shadow of the valley of death. Some translations have dark valley or valley of darkness, and as you can see in Hebrew, it's very, very similar, the way you write it. So both are possible, but I think the translation valley of death is very poetic and more beautiful. What I find interesting is that at this point there is a change. Up till now, God has been referred to as He. The speaker is talking about God. But when we come to the shadow of the valley of death, God is addressed as you. Apparently, in the times when things become dark, we have a greater need of talking to God directly, not merely speaking about Him, but speaking to Him and with Him. Apparently, the Good Shepherd will lead us into fearful places, but He won't leave us there. He will be with us all the way. And in this way, He has two instruments to help us, His rod and His staff. Now these are two different things. A rod is something like a stick which is clad with iron at the end. So it's a weapon against creatures that might be lurking in the dark of that valley. The staff, on the other hand, is used for the sheep themselves. For instance, if a sheep is afraid or doesn't want to move, or if it goes too far to one side, then the staff can prod him on or correct him to make sure that the whole flock stays together and no sheep is lost. So the rod protects against outside enemies and the staff keeps the sheep together as a unity. After that we come to the second part. The imagery changes, and here God is no longer a shepherd but a powerful ruler showing support. He is hosting a banquet, and that indicates, I support this person, I've got his back. This is necessary because enemies are watching. but they won't dare to touch someone who is so obviously under God's protection. And that's what the abundant food and drink are signs of. If we sit at the table of God, if we know that our cup is overflowing, then we are, by that token, protected from everything that could harm us. Goodness and kindness follow me, is what the poet says. And follow is actually a rather weak translation of a verb that means something more like pursue or persecute. That's something that enemies do. But in this case, it's not the enemies that persecute me, it's God's goodness and kindness. The goodness is the same goodness that God showed at creation when He created things from nothing. And the kindness, that's the kindness that God shows to rescue those creatures of His that are in need. That goodness and kindness will always track us down. And the result is that we dwell in God's house. When we sing this psalm, we are already there.